this is the new narrative for the budget, right? Basically, that can the government spend and how much can it spend productively? And so if you see the 2 lakh increase, right? So that 6 lakh in 22 RE includes that 52,000 crores of Air India capex or other capital injection. So we are back to 5.5 lakh crores. Now 5.5 going to 7.5 is 2 lakh crores extra. Where is that coming from? And so 1 lakh crore of that is that interest-free loan that the government is keeping aside for states. So in case the states have some productive capex they can imagine and they can come up with, then that money will be spent. So we don't know where it's going to be spent. I'm apprehensive that it will not be spent, but anyway, so that's 1 lakh crores. There is another 20,000 crores, which is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, where it was off-budget spending, which has now become on budget. There is some amount of off-budget or NHAI, which is now on budget. So the actual increases are 15,000 crores in Jal Jeevan Mission. There is about 25-30,000 crores in the railways, about 10,000 crores in roads, and some 15,000 crores in defense. Now, defense number is looks optically lower, but there was a big aircraft purchase this year, which I think the number is lower. So the non-aircraft purchase capex is going up and all of that. But if you add all of that up, we are talking about a 65,000 crores of increase, which is good and shows excellent intent, especially given that some very important state elections are up ahead, that the government is deciding to spend on things which matter in the long run and not necessarily in the short run. But in terms of aggregate demand boost, I don't think there is that much.
Okay, so there could be a couple of ways of looking at this, right? One, if one looks at capex as a share of the budget, and if one keeps all of these items in there, or capex as a percentage of GDP, and you take a broader measure of capex where you do public sector capex, IEBR plus central capex, that is still going up in aggregate. So it's not faulty to say that there is greater prioritization of capex. Am I right on that?
Oh, totally. So there is, and also before I speak too positively, so there is intent and there is execution. So the one good example of that is my desire to run a 100-meter sprint in 10 seconds is very aggressive, even less than 12, right? I struggle to do 15. So it's the same with the government, right? So they would want to spend more. So if you see the fourth quarter expenditure in capex this year that is assumed, it's ridiculous. I mean, they've not spent so far. See, the good thing is that if you don't put it in the budget, that department is not going to spend it anyway, right? So so you have to put it there. So you can imagine there is a government trying to push hard that, look, you've got to spend. Now there is money. And the departments are struggling. In railways, for example, I mean, we should be doing 8-10 lakh crores of capex. We are struggling to do 2.5 lakh crores. Now, we've come a long way. We've come from 50,000 crores. But I mean, the Chinese have been doing 10 lakh crores for 13 years. So I think the mandate is to grow. Now, can they spend it? So given that they had so much money and they wanted to spend so much, they just kept 1 lakh crores aside. It was, we will find out a way to spend it. You can imagine how much surplus funds have been given to departments. Because if you can do capex, here's the money. And only the roads ministry is managing to do it. And there's a huge lesson there. So look at in the last 20 years, where 20 years back, we couldn't do 50 kilometers or, there weren't any companies which could do 50, 100 kilometers of national highways, 4-lane highways. Now we are doing 40, 50 kilometers a day. So we need that level of scale up to happen in many other ministries, unfortunately. So yeah, so that's the caveat I will put. There is allocation. I am not convinced that we will be able to spend all of it.
So, okay, talk a little bit more about the spending problem. Are there roads, you said, is one place where you are being able to spend? Are there other segments where you're being able to spend, where you can front load spending? Because if the intent is that, okay, let's front load capex, kick off a cycle where, there is execution, there is jobs, there's income, and then there's, sort of crowding in of private investments. Are we allocating it in the places where at least we're being able to spend? Because someone said that the roads increase is there in this budget as well. So you are
yes. So it's not a step jump, right? So it's not that you're going from 8,000 kilometers to 15,000 kilometers. Though I think the headline number was we'll finish 25,000 kilometers, but the actual increase in spending is, I think, about 10% or so. So this is where the challenge is, right? So beyond roads, where?
Yeah.
So for the center, see what are the things the center can spend on. So center can spend on roads, railways, airports, and major ports, right? So those are the four big areas where and of course, then it can do a lot of CSS, centrally supported schemes, centrally sponsored schemes, which is where the center then spends on rural housing, water, sanitation, and all the things which are state subjects. So in roads, they are not maxing out, I would say. Of course, they can do 50,000 kilometers also, but beyond a certain level, it's I think important not to scale up too much, right? Because then what do you do with all that infrastructure? In railways, they should be doing more. I think they want to do more, but I think they can't do more. In airports, airports, of course, are very important. They can be transformative. I can vouch for the fact that the Darbhanga airport in North Bihar is transforming North Bihar, but they are more like buildings, right? How many? I mean, you just need to build a building. And the airstrip is already there. How much capex can you do? So the center can't do more capex, right? And you can spend a bit more on affordable housing, on rural housing, and all of that. But the ability to push through meaningful sums is again limited. Finally, we get down to the states, because health infrastructure, education, urban infrastructure, sanitation, metro rail, all of those things, the states have to spend. And that is where there is the biggest constraint. So strategically, the decision to say that, look, I will let the state spend more is right. In terms of execution, this doesn't excite me because the states are massively slipping up. So the gap between revised estimate fiscal deficit and actual fiscal deficit for states used to be about 0.5 to 1%. Maybe 0.5, 0.6%. In the last 2 years, it is 1.5%. So the states are saying the FY21 RE was 4.7%.
Yeah.
I think if you look at how much cash they were left with and the lower borrowing, they did less than 3% last year. This year, they're at 3.6% budgeted. If you wait for the state government budgets, I'm very sure this 3.6 will go to 4.2. But when you actually see what the deficits they incur, will actually again be 3%, maybe even 2.5%, pre-COVID levels. So states are really struggling, and this is where I think the narrative around budgets has actually shifted, and I think we need to educate the bond markets a bit about what it means for bond yields.